This is my Exodus project. My chapter is Exodus 2, which explains the birth of Moses. In the beginning of the story, a man of Levi marries a Levite woman who becomes pregnant with Moses. She hides the child for 3 months and puts the baby, which is Moses, in a papyrus basket and puts it along the Nile River when she can't take care of the baby anymore. Pharaoh's daughter picks up the basket as she sees it along the river and felt bad for the baby who was crying. Pharaoh's daughter decides to take care of the baby and orders her servants to go get a mother who can take care of the baby. Later on, when Moses grows up, he becomes to be a son of Pharaoh's daughter. One day Moses sees a scene where an Egyptian is beating a Hebrew slave. Moses kills the Egyptian and hides his body, but when Pharaoh finds out later what Moses did, he gets really mad, which causes Moses to run away to Midian. There Moses stays with the man he saved and marries a woman, Zipporah. These are some key words and phrases repeated in Exodus chapter 2. Child, hides, Pharaoh's daughter, daughters, which is also Pharaoh's daughter, baby, Hebrew, water, Moses, Egypt, Egyptian, cried or cry. Child and baby is referring to Moses as a child and a baby. Water is where Moses was put on, which is a river when he was a baby, in a basket. Moses, of course, who is the main character, is repeated and used the most in this chapter. Hebrew is also used a lot because, first of all, Moses is a Hebrew, and the slaves who were captured by Pharaoh was also a Hebrew. And this here is a picture of Pharaoh's daughter and Moses, where Pharaoh's daughter picks up Moses and takes care of him. These are the 2 questions that I have for this chapter. Number 1, why didn't the servant go looking for Moses' real mother instead of just getting a random Hebrew woman to take care of Moses? Number 2, why were the Hebrews crying after the death of the Egyptian king? Answer I have for number 1 is taking care of the baby was already enough work, or all that an Egyptian can do for a Hebrew. And they believed that even without Moses' real mother, he was able to grow up well. And even with Moses' mother, he might have had a harder time. And number 2, they were crying for help to God because they thought that the slavery went up as well with the Egyptian king. However, God, knowing the covenant, was worried and concerned about the Hebrews and still cared for the Hebrews. 2 comments that I thought was useful was, number 1, God cares for us and his plan is always set. When Pharaoh's cruelty was at its highest peak, or when it was at the worst point, God sent Moses to deliver it to him. This just shows destiny and foreshadows the coming of God with almighty power, which actually happened. And number 2 is what I really like, is that faith in God can do anything is very important. Faith in God excites and quickens the use of lawful means, and our job as human beings and as a follower of God is to perform the orders, and it is God's job to create the event for us to fulfill and achieve. Therefore, faith in God can put us above everything, and especially the fear of man. This here is a picture of Moses telling Pharaoh to let his people go. This is 2 translators' notes that I thought were useful and good for this chapter. His sister stationed herself. This is Exodus chapter 2, verse 4. In this verse, instead of the word station, stood can be used, and it means that she was waiting to see what might become of the infant. Number 2, she sent one of her attendants. Exodus chapter 2, verse 5. In this verse, attendants is referring to a female slave owned by Pharaoh's daughter, also called Amma. This is Pharaoh's daughter and the servants along the Nile River. So questions and answers I have is, what does this chapter say about God? This chapter particularly shows us proof that God's plan for us is very good. Everything he did, starting from Moses' birth to the marriage, related to one whole purpose, which was a perfect success. If one of these things didn't happen, the descendants of Abraham might have been in slavery for even a longer time. What does this chapter say about the people? This chapter tells us that people can sometimes be really cruel and ruthless. Pharaoh gives more labor to a labor which is already enough for the people, and just because of what Moses said to him. Yet it shows that people are still faithful to God, but once they start believing in Him. These are the works cited for my pictures and the comments and the translator's notes. Thank you.